Hi, I'm Spencer. I'm a co-founder of Formly, and I'm here with BFF to talk about my startup journey. So I'm from the US. I was born in Annapolis, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., and I went to school in Charleston, South Carolina, where I live now, and I did my PhD in Baltimore and Maryland, and spent some time in the Bay Area. For my PhD, I studied toxicology, so I was doing a lot of lab work, cell culture, stuff like that. And that's when I knew I didn't want to work in the lab for the rest of my life. So I got out of that and started working at the FDA, actually, in Washington, D.C. for a little while, and kind of started my med device regulatory journey there. My first job was delivering newspapers, probably, when I was like 12 or something. I had to go collect money from people for newspaper subscriptions when I was 12. So it kind of forced me to just talk to people, not necessarily be a salesman because I knew they had to pay me, but I think that helped to hone my person skills from the very beginning. How did I start Formly to begin with was really just from my experience at my job. I work in a med device company, and I just got to experience firsthand how much people pay to get regulatory documentation completed. Essentially, they have to put all their money into hiring consultants to essentially get the documentation made, to submit to the FDA or to notified bodies who CE mark in Europe. Med device, the biggest part of your med device is getting it on the market, right? So part of me was like, wow, it's a lot of money. I should be a consultant. But also it was like, man, how are these people handling these costs and essentially getting everything done so they can actually get their med device products to people who need it? So our product itself is software as a service. Essentially, it's a software platform you enter into. If you're a med device manufacturer or consultant, you upload all your documentation into it, and essentially automatically completes like a final form that you submit to regulators to get your product on the market. So essentially, like automatically creates your regulatory documentation. Our CTO is Severin Hogel. He's our other co-founder, and I actually met him through Travis, through Silicon Alley. We just met, or he met Travis, had lunch with him, said, Severin might be interested in what we do. Severin's great because he's worked in regulated healthcare for a while and has done, tech development for different companies in that space. So him and I immediately kind of hit it off and understood the issues that people were facing. Artificial intelligence for what we're trying to build fits in two ways. One is to make regulations easier to understand, so provide kind of like a simplified explanation of what regulations you need to meet in order to get your product on the market. The other way is essentially just speeding the whole process. So it can automatically create the documentation you need. It can read through documents that you've already created and kind of fill in the gaps. We have different templates that are available, so it'll fill in the templates of documents that you still need with information that you already have. So there's like kind of a parsing through documentation part of it. There's also kind of like the automated generation of documents as well, based on kind of prompts that we have internally in our softwares. My advice to people who are, I guess just getting started in the space, founders or healthcare founders, is just talk to people. Get out there early. If you have something to test with people, it's a lot easier for people to give you feedback if they see something. A lot of people would say, yeah, I'd use that. And then you show them that and they're like, well, that's not what I expected, So I think getting out there early, often testing your product. If it fails, you can pivot early or you can adjust early. I think that's really the biggest thing, is just, getting to know your customers inside and out. I think one of the best superpowers for a founder is really, and I'm dancing between saying confidence and having no fear, but that's really, sometimes it's understanding the fear of going out there and putting yourself out there as a founder and marketing yourself and marketing your company and talking to users. Can be scary, but it's absolutely what you have to do. So I wasn't always like that. When you work in medical device regulations, by default, in the trade, you're a very cautious person. So you want everything to be perfect. You want to make sure that if there are any issues along the road, you've already scoped those out. But in order to be successful, you have to essentially, take on risk and get out there. And so you can be calculating, but you have to have, no fear going out there and selling yourself. So I think that's the one superpower people need to have, is even if they don't feel the most confident in the world themselves, just go out there and try, because you'd be surprised at how many people are interested in what you're doing or there to help you out along the way. My experience with BFF has been great. I think my favorite part about BFF has been the mentorship. There's literally so many mentors that you can choose from, and they all have very broad experience, but also very niche experience, which is great for us because we work in the regulatory space. It's kind of a niche area to be in, and having someone who understands exactly kind of the issues that you're going through is really helpful. So for us, we've been able to speak to people about things from marketing to sales to user groups to AI development to regulatory issues and things that we know but we want to validate, everything under the sun. So my experience with BFF has been really great, and it's been really cool from a standpoint of a co-founder who's not in Berlin to just being connected via Slack or via master classes or things that are online as well. Just having access to those kinds of networks has been really beneficial, I think, for me too. I don't know why, but if I had to think of Formly as a fictional character, the first thing that popped into my head was Inspector Gadget. I don't know if you know who that is. He's got like all the gadgets and things. Yeah, okay. So just because I feel like we're tech heavy company, and I feel like what we're trying to do, we're going to offer like a million tools for people to solve their problems. So the book I'm reading right now is I'm reading all of the Lord of the Rings, so I'm a big fantasy junkie. So during the pandemic, I read every single Harry Potter book because I'd never read the books. So I'm kind of on this kick now. I'm reading all these fantasy books, but actually my like guilty pleasure is like nonfiction books about naval explorers. So like James Cook, Francis Drake, Magellan, like all those people. I don't know why. I just love it. It's insane. Hi, I'm Spencer, co-founder of Formly, and I just want to thank BFF for all their help and assistance along our startup journey. If you want to learn more about Formly, you can visit Formly.ai or you can find me on LinkedIn.